Good afternoon, everyone. How are you? Doing well? Energized? Beautiful day too so far? So my name is Bas, and I was just given a great warm introduction. Yes, until early this year, I was the Chief Digital Officer to the beautiful city of Rotterdam in the Netherlands. And I'm also Professor of Practice, Urban Innovation and Smart City at Van der Burg School of Global Management. I've been active in the smart city space for 22 years at this particular point, and I would always like to joke that at this particular point, I no longer know what a smart city is. It has changed so much, and I think if we're going to ask you how you define a smart city, I think we're going to get 100 different definitions back. So it's still kind of unclear, but we realize, all of us realize that digital transformation is having a massive impact on our communities, our cities, our regions, our countries. Now, go back. In terms of my age, I was born in the year 29 BG. That means I was born in the year 29 before Google. If you know how old Google is, you know how old I am. And I'm saying this and I'm sharing this with you quite simply because I want to share that I have lived a very distinct, long period of my life in a deeply analog world. And that's my take on the world. A lot of it comes from the analog experience, but with a lot of positivism, looking at what's ahead in terms of digital. In terms of what I do today, as a very quick intermezzo, before I dive into history rather than the future, this is what I do today. I run Urban Innovators Global. We provide cities or enhance their capacity to innovate. We do that through education, advisory, but also through venture building. And I'm mentioning that because all of these things that I now mention are part as to how we're going to get the digital transformation for our cities right. As I mentioned, I have this analog background. I'm old enough. I'm going to start with you with history. Industrial revolutions. They've been around for a number of hundreds of years. And what happened during those industrial revolutions is that they changed our economy. They changed our cities. They changed the very fabric of our society. They changed the very design of how we human beings organize ourselves at every level. What all of those industrial revolutions have done is they allowed for a deep centralization of almost everything and anything. Centralized production, centralized time zones, centralized pension schemes, centralized inoculation programs, centralized economic activity of any kind. All of that got centralized. With every new technology, our cities became smaller and bigger at the same time. Railways, steam engines, electricity, the telegraph, it did that. Right to the very design of cities itself. Think of Paris, this beautiful picture here behind me. Le Grand Étoile, centralized organization. This was the design. Now, we are living an industrial revolution again, and this time it's not pointing in the direction of central. It's pointing in the direction of distributedness. We're getting more networked in anything we do. Think of healthcare. Typically, that has been a very centralized affair, and it still is. We go to the hospital. That's where all the support is happening. It's centralized. But right now, it's all around us. All the data about our bodies is becoming more intelligent. We are picking up on that data more intelligent. We have personalized treatments with AI kicking in. And what that is doing is that actually we always talk about healthcare, but we never had healthcare. We always had sick care. And we always make it to the garage when it's too late. We're going to get healthcare. It's going to get more distributed. We talked in the previous panel about smart energy grids, from centralized coal-powered plant distributing energy, and it's losing the energy like 40% before it makes it to your front door. Now we're getting to have smart grids, the internet of energy, distributed. Think of education. Think of how we learn. Yes, our kids go to school. That's still centralized. But think of how we learn. Online, it's distributed. I can go on. Mobility. from selfish routing, all on the same road, same traffic jam, to distributed routing, making mobility smarter. This principle of distributedness is everywhere. Now, I hope it works. Oh, here it is. I move on. If you think of cities, there were essentially two core components that helped us understand, experience, and express the urban experience. First of all, the built environment. Think of buildings, skyscrapers, and what have you not. It's that physical expression that always landed with us first. This is how we experience cities. This is how we feel cities. But the other big dimension was obviously social economic in nature. Trade, education, exchange of values, culture, ideas. That was the other big thing, because you could go to smaller communities, but in cities, this is where it all happened. This is where it always was like the HQ of social economic activity. And in many ways, it still is. This has been the truth for thousands of years. This is what's powered our cities. This is how it expressed cities. But now we have a third one. And that third one is the digital dimension. That digital dimension allows us to experience the city well beyond the physical urban environment itself. And as we move on, it actually also becomes the domain through which we interact and decide, play, educate, meet, more and more than ever before. I take this example from the city of Rotterdam. Now, that's the city that I used to serve, as I just pointed out. Many cities are working on a digital twin, but the art here is to think beyond the incremental and not making digital twins as just another gadget or tool that's going to be used by city planners and engineers and architects only. How can we actually jump beyond incrementalism and use digital twins, use those virtual environments, in fact, to generate an interaction that wasn't there before? If you think what Rotterdam is trying to do, to actually turn this into a platform for citizens to engage and for government to engage with citizens, to have people join into the platform, into the metaverse of the city, to co-decide, to see for themselves what to do, that's powerful. Look, if you ask citizens today, to actually join in, to think about an urban regeneration initiative in one neighborhood, some will come, some of them will not come. And those people that don't read and write very well, and believe me also, the city of Rotterdam has got a good number of them, they are not inclined to come. They will not actually participating. They don't understand the documents, or it looks like boring. But think of the metaverse. Everyone can join. Kids can join. People that don't read and write very well can join. In fact, you could say, if you can game, you can participate. If you can game, you can co-decide. If you can game, you become part of a more inclusive affair. This is what the metaverse can do for you. Now, I could talk for at least another hour about AI and other emerging technologies and what it will do. But I think you get the picture. You get a lot of great points of view, and the previous panels were very, very articulate in terms of where this may go. But how do we get there? And it's not easy. You may say, look, we've come so far. We've got all of these technologies. They work. And aren't we just implementing it right now? I would say, if you think where AI is taking you, where the metaverse is taking you, the journey is just getting started. If you compare the digital transformation journey of our cities with Lord of the Rings, ladies and gentlemen, Frodo has just left the Shire. The journey is only getting started now. 5 principles. 5 principles, not so much about the what, but how we're going to get there. 5 principles that will contribute to success. 5 principles that, with all modesty, are going to help articulate what we need to do. First one. We need to have a plan, what I call a new digital deal. We need to have a plan as to what we want from technology and how we're going to get to that future-forward vision. I applaud the leadership in this country for having that vision. There is a vision. There is a very strong vision. I wish my country had a vision like that. I'm telling you, I envy the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for having such a powerful vision. But then all the other things, and that's an applause for all the Saudi citizens and leaders in this room. All the other things need to be taken into account. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I've got a hobby. I will let you know. I have a hobby. I love cooking, whether it's Thai cuisine or Lebanese cuisine or whatever. I love cooking. But if you make a very complex meal, and it consists of like 25 ingredients, you take 3 or 4 of those ingredients out, it doesn't taste the same. It's just kind of failing on the quality. All of those that love cooking will actually be able to share that perspective. You need to be comprehensive about this journey, vision, governance, understanding the technologies at work. And sure, I mean, it was mentioned by I think the deputy minister. You know, we need to not just innovate with technology, we need to innovate our business models also. The delivery models. We can talk about tokenizing the ownership of buildings, as was shared on stage just now. But what if regulatory powers are the showstoppers? Because regulatory environments will say, great that you can tokenize the ownership of a building, but we will not allow you. You need to innovate regulatory environments as much as the technology. You need to be comprehensive about this adventure. Second, number 2, community, citizens first. This is a no-brainer. This is almost beaten to death as a point, but I need to reiterate it. Because we can talk buildings, we can plan, we can use technologies, we can have great regulatory environments, we can have great business models. But if we don't start out with citizens, if we don't start out with actual community, then that is going to become tough. And why is it tough? Because technologies emerge fast, culture evolves slowly. It takes a generation. It takes easily 20 years. And you need to take into account for that. Now, you may say, that's great, Bas, but what if we build a new city? What if we build the line? What if we do that? How do we engage with citizens that are not there because the buildings are not there yet? But I would say, isn't there really an opportunity to start building now? Start with technology, buildings, concrete, but also with people, also the citizens, also building community. And I started out with myself. I look at this, and I'm a huge fan of the line for multiple reasons, and I don't have the time to go into that. But one of the questions I had is, can I join? Can I become a member of this community? Okay, I'm not from Saudi, but can I join? Look, I've seen this great example in Estonia, one of the Baltic states in Northern Europe, and they've got e-citizenship. And you can start a business. You may have never been to Estonia, but if you become an e-citizen, you can build a business. You can actually leverage the fiscal climate of that country. You can join in the conversation. You can help shape things. You can become part of educational initiatives in Estonia. Wouldn't it be great if we would create e-citizenships for the line so that everyone can join in, so that I can join in, that my colleagues can join in? I would love to see that happen. That would not only be a way of engaging people locally, nationally, regionally, and globally, but it's also great marketing. Number 3 is very close to community, is how do we actually craft a language that people understand? We understand open data, we talk AI, we talk United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, we do all of that, which is good. But do all citizens get that? And it's important if we want to be inclusive about what we plan for. Otherwise, we might get into a situation like this. People simply completely out of touch with the plans and ideas that we have. Let's build that language. It's difficult, but it can be done. Education. And not just education of our young, not just the education of people that are at school today, but also the people that are in mid-level or senior leadership position to dare to go back to school and understand what it is that we're planning for. Here is a particular insight that I love. When you are living a system shift, and I think we can agree that we in fact are living a system shift, the past stops being a source of guidance for the present and future, which means we need to go back to school. We need to actually come together and educate ourselves. Here are 3 examples that I think are incredible. Singapore, about 7 years ago, announced that they were going to send back 50% of the public sector workforce of the entire Singapore government going back to school to learn data analytics. Not for them to become data analytics experts, but for them to be able to go back to their old jobs and do a much better job through the lens of data and digital. I picked this up in the newspaper last week. Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, 100,000 Saudi citizens on digital skills and jobs. That's aspirational. That's the right vision. That's the right spirit. Oman, I have to say I'm very proud of that because I'm very much involved in it. Thunderbird School of Global Management, my school, we're providing a 3-year educational program for the government of Oman, national ministries, municipalities, even the royal court, on urban innovation and next-generation spatial planning. We do most of it on-site, and I think it's very insightful and foresightful of the entire government set of entities in Oman to take it this comprehensive, this long-term, across entities, departments, municipalities, and other players. And then last, point number 5. We need to get beyond thinking in ecosystems, and we need to build effective urban innovation complexes. You cannot actually see a PowerPoint presentation from a city about their smart city efforts without at least one slide about their ecosystem. Our telecommunications player, our university, and you get all of the logos of all the players that work. But again, to the cooking. You can have all the ingredients on the table, but the ingredients on the table does not equal a good meal. You still have to do the cooking. Same here. You need to actually go from ecosystem thinking, we need to go from ecosystem thinking to deep governance and building an urban innovation complex. I don't think I have the time to go into every aspect of this, how we work together better, how we can arrive at cooperative structures that will do a better job. But there's one point I want to lift out of this. That is how we engage with startups. Startups are an incredible source of power, energy, and innovation. But the problem with startups are large. The problem with the entire startup world is large. You see so many founders of startups that are drunk, completely in love with their own technology and solution, without a market fit. Many of them have never really solidly explored as to whether the market is actually there. And from an urban perspective, and from the very large societal agenda that we have, the question has to be, if we want to be smart as a country, if we want to be prepared for climate change, if we want to be prepared for all of the transition journeys that we are currently facing, then how can we leverage startups better? But that's going to require a number of things. We have to have a long-term approach on those startups. Take them under our wings and work with them for a longer period of time. Not just throw them in some startup accelerator for 3 months and then throw them out in the market and then just hope that they will become a unicorn. They may not. Generally, they won't. So take them under our wings, long-term approaches. Start out not with a solution, start with the real challenges. Starting out with problems, understanding the problems, falling in love with the problem, and then build a company on top of that. A working methodology that really provides transparency to public sector leaders, investors, and the startup itself as to where they stand, and do it with scalability in mind. So many of us have been in the smart city world for a long time. We've seen so many pilots that failed. Scalability, scalability, scalability. Out of my organization, Urban Innovators Global, it being one of the founders, we have a bit of news. Per today, it's the first time that we actually announce that we are launching a Venture Rock Urban Middle East and Africa fund and studio that's going to be active here and throughout the region, actually living up to all of those principles. We bring our own fund. We bring our own methodology. We have a long-term approach in working with those startups. And I very much look forward to be engaging with you and making this happen. And with all of that, and with all of the things that I've shared, with your thoughts, with your thinking, I would wish we had the time to get into a discussion, but one thing, Let us build that new digital deal for our cities, for our communities, for our citizens. Let's start now. Thank you very much for your attention.